Hey there, freaks and sickos. Welcome to my campaign. There's been a conversation brewing that I thought we already settled, right? Like, adult content on the internet is for adults, yeah, for starters, and pornography for children is bad. By children is worse. It's not something anyone under the age of 18 should look at, and it could be harmful for mental health for people under the age of 18, just like alcohol and obviously cigarettes. It's all the same stuff. So that's true, and, for the most part, I was actually a good boy on that one. I don't know about the rest of the population, but there are studies that prove that if you are to look at that kind of content, you should in fact be an adult. That's a perfectly valid viewpoint, but the second is not so valid. What to do about it, and it could be as bad as the third point, why they do about it. So Florida is one of a number of red states that put up an age verification law. So the way that is supposed to work, according to Florida and every other state that has done so, if you have seen a picture going around Blue Sky of what the top search result is for the year by a certain adult website, and there's a bunch of states grayed out, this law is why. And Florida is also basically copy-pasting they're doing more enforcement of COPPA, which says you have to be over 13. They made it 14, of course, because they want to have some ambiguity, because they want to be able to flex power and make it worse for black children. They want to persecute the black children, to put them in the school-to-prison pipeline so they can be slave labor for the rest of their lives. This is what Ron DeSantis' entire governorship is all about. But anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, the access to pornography and the problem of people too young to viewing it. The way the Florida law is supposed to work is you're supposed to show your driver's license to the website, and they will have it on their system, but they don't want it on their system. There's the thing with adults looking at this stuff, not wanting to be on a list of adults looking at this stuff. There is the social stigma, and then there is the potential that Florida certainly wants to escalate this too, and that's banning of pornography for everyone, requiring every ISP to block it, because they are on a moral crusade. They believe it is unchristian, and thus will censor free speech, because Republicans have never been a fan of that, but they love to pretend to be, because they want their side to feel like the victim. And they do it in such a way as they will make the viewer disgusted and make them feel justified in doing actual censorship, which is where Florida would like to escalate this to, would like to press charges against certain people viewing what is, at every point, consenting adults. Like, you can concern troll the actors all you want, but it's the only job that women get paid more than men to do. even to this very modern-looking day. And it's all at will employment. And I'm talking about filming, not doing, not stuff like Nevada where they regulate sex work but actually have an actual exploitation problem in that particular state that could be easily solved by decriminalizing all sex work, whether it's interpersonal or as a business model. But I digress. There's content that could do real harm to the mental health of children and teenagers. What should we do about that? There's what's happening in Florida. There was the proposal of COPPA to try and make a nationwide sort of thing on that. There's Australia, which banned everyone under 16 from being involved in social media. I think that's a bad idea. I think it should just be what COPPA does with 13. To be completely honest. And then there's the end goal of wanting to criminalize gay people and try and stretch the definition of pornographic to gay people existing, even if it's not. Even if there are people in drag dancing around. They're in drag dancing around. That itself is not a sexual or pornographic act. It's, for those of you intelligent men, you would know right away that that is. Gender bending, gender swapping, role reversal that is, in many cases with drag performers, temporary, but they enjoy believing that they're women in the moment. Some are actually trans, but drag isn't even trans. It's just a temporary mix-up of gender roles, gender clothes, and gender norms for fun. And as we all know, Republicans hate fun. We've been here before, though. And it didn't end up with the censorship of other forms of media, like TV and movies and newspaper and books. In the past, and even to this day, parents and children are able to reach an understanding, and all parties are mature enough, at least on this topic, to know that, hey kiddo, there's certain stuff that's not appropriate for you at your age. It could be traumatizing. The real world isn't necessarily like this. What we adults could be looking at know the difference of what is an exaggeration and what isn't. But the way this movie presents this form of violence or entertainment is not meant for you, and you would not enjoy viewing this. You would not like it, and it could lead to mental health problems. And you could even give the kid the scientific paper on it, and most adults know this already, and most children would look at this and go, "Hey, Dad, I understand. I will not watch this thing. Thank you." And maybe someday we will watch the inappropriate thing together, depending on the context. Slasher films, that's fine, and stuff like that. You know, taking your kid to an R-rated movie is kind of a rite of passage. I don't exactly remember the first time I saw an R-rated movie with my parents or my brother. That's all beside the point. This is a normal way of doing things with other forms of media. You can even go to NC-17 films. There were even theaters for showing the kind of stuff you would see on a hub of this type of content, but you weren't allowed to do what you can do today in your bedroom. Adults will understand what I said, and you know, if you're young, yeah, it would be better if you did not know that. What I meant by that. Anyway, so there's this understanding. There's some things for adults, some for children, and even children kind of know this on an instinctive level, like a toy lawnmower is not the same as an actual lawnmower. Granted, I've never used a real lawnmower in my life. I could if I wanted to, though. Just never got around to it. I might be someday in a position where I will need to learn that skill, and as an adult I understand, like, hey, a real lawnmower, you plug that in, you don't go over the extension cord. But again, I digress. That is how we figure this all out. And it is with that knowledge that a President Bill Clinton made it mandatory for every TV. I'll get to this part in a bit, I'm sorry. Made it mandatory to have TVs filter out what children in families are not supposed to see, and even what teenagers in families are not supposed to see. They might have learned about it in school, but they're not supposed to see content glorifying that just yet. And this is where there's a bit of a gray area on what kind of child after the age of 13 to show when and discuss when. But the V-chip was supposed to censor that out and make things less awkward. This is where these ratings come from. If you look at a program of a lot of TV shows, you'll have something like TVY, TVY7, TVG, TVMA, everything on this list, TV14, TVPG. You could have the TV, like, let's say you have children, like, you could have the TV block these things, but you're okay with your kids, and your kids understand. They're not sensitive snowflakes, so you allow these 3 for your 8-year-olds. And the V-chip takes care of the rest. If there's channel surfing and an inappropriate program, boom, you have to enter a PIN code to unlock it, and thus the program. And the reason for that is because of the vertical blanking interval. That's what the V stands for. Line 21. An invisible line on the television where a black and white section of an image can give data to a computer chip that can then use it to determine with digital math. You're having an analog signal being turned into digital math. This is also how closed captions used to work. The exact rating of the program, and at a more granular level too. Like, you would have TVPG L for language, not L for language, D for dialogue, or V for violence. And it would go with all of these higher ratings too. They would have sub ratings like, am I okay with TVMAD? Absolutely. TVMA DV? Sure. TVMA SDV, the sexual stuff? No. They can't see that episode of Mr. Garrison yet. That's how it works for TVs. There are digital equivalents of that to this day, and even the ESRB and game console manufacturers have their own version of this within the optical form of a video game and the downloads. And parents can do this with their consoles, like they can block rated M games from being downloaded to the PS5. And that has been used a lot more these days than the V-chip was when it was first enacted. In fact, the V-chip has only really been used by Ned Flanders types of parents because of what I talked about earlier. Because parents and children and teenagers and families could all reach a mutual understanding and teach their children and use real common sense to determine that, hey, this is not appropriate for you. You might enjoy this someday, but you would not enjoy this now. So, understanding the boundary, the line, the difference between a toy lawnmower and an adult lawnmower. And that seems reasonable. And that's why Republicans want to start there, but they have no intention of stopping. There's a better way. And what I just described is way better than just requiring an ID for over 18, having this binary switch, this on and off. And when it comes to websites, a lot of parents have had to buy software in which you have to rely on the opinions of other parents. They've been relying on other parents, and other parents aren't really a reliable source of child advice if you are a parent, and especially if you don't run that internet by a reliable search engine, or treat everything with skepticism. Double check, do independent research, and make sure there's enough replication, cross-referencing from enough reliable, dependable, and knowledgeable sources before applying that to your child. But commercial parental control software does not do this. And these programs make up their own category based on opinion rather than the objective measurements a site can make themselves. You have the ESRB for video games. Yes, there is an independent board, but it's pretty self-explanatory what these ratings mean, that Y is for kids, Y7 for big kids, G, general, PG, TV-14 is the same as PG-13. These are even slang terms now. And you can tell by a quick glance what these ratings mean, what they are. which is why it's surprising that there isn't already an agreed upon standard for web browsers to do this. Why are we involving mushy content creators in this at all? At the business level, why do they have to verify IDs? Why is it their responsibility? Their business is to make what they make. And they don't sell it to kids. They don't want kids to view it. But shouldn't we trust parents to also get involved in this, to reach that understanding? And if there is an impulse control problem, have a filter based on a rating system in the browser. And why are we fixating it on just sexual themes? Why can't it also be with violence and foul language and the behavior? Like, why can't there be one that would block 4chan for doing downright illegal behavior? And who do we trust to get this information and make sure that the rating actually means what it says? Why isn't there a protocol for this? Why isn't there a program, an organization of internet companies working with ICANN to just sidestep the need for government intervention altogether? And like the Clinton administration at the time, call the bluff of culture war conservatives who we know don't give a shit about the children, except for poor people being forced to make more of them, which is certainly one of the reasons they want to block all pornography. Perhaps the number one concern. Religion maybe 12th? Among the average Republican voter, let alone some soulless corporate goon that only wants gooning for he and none for thee. Well, we can. I have a feeling that after I post this, there will be many steps closer to that, to having the V-chip for the browser. So, actually, it would be the B-chip. I know that sounds snarky and would instantly turn into a slang term among kids, but you know, in elementary school, if you say, yeah, I know it's still true to this day, if you say bitch as a child, well, I kind of feel dirty, a little dirty doing that as an adult, but that's because I live in Minnesota, don't you know? And yeah, but they could say B-chip, and it just wouldn't sound foul. It wouldn't feel as dirty, but oh my god, my mother is such a B-chip. I mean, maybe some southern schools in Louisiana would give a shit. But in Minnesota, probably not. I mean, it would be like child slang. That's fine. But this B chip would be something that all browsers would have to do. It wouldn't take much for it to be implemented. It could be widely scaled to everything, even open source stuff like the Zen browser, which is itself based on Firefox. It would be like, boom, we're done, but the information itself. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a way for a website to make its own vertical blanking interval, its own hidden... Okay, anyone who knows anything about computers can stop laughing, because not only can websites do that and send you cookies as a text file, so that you can be tracked and fingerprinted if you're stupid and did not set the proper preferences, or you don't clean your browser cookies every now and again. Oh, this... they can also hide other files completely in plain sight. Like, I can't access something every web page has without going deeper into the settings of my browser and going in to web developer tools and looking for the magic words, or worda, robots. The robot's name tells it tells the terminal of the internet, the web browser, what it can do with the page, the limitations of that. They'll have a robots.txt file at some point in the whole page. Is it in Style Editor? Maybe. Or something like it that will even tell organizations, data brokers, and yes, AI companies, any service that seriously says we don't sell your data to AI will have it in robots somewhere in the code of the page or as its own file in any of the computer code used to make this. And the rating of the page could be part of that. There could be a tree of data with this. You could have a robot's text or instruction for sections of a website that you know are going to fit within a certain category. We could have a self-report of this, and if browsers choose, have a button that says cross-reference or double check. It could use a little bit of AI. That part shouldn't be mandatory, but having something to double check, confidence interval, or a community section with up and down arrows like Reddit to prevent trolling. There we go. The distribution problem of ooh woo is solved right then and there. It could even be something that's scaled to payment processors. So like if you give your kid an allowance debit card and even give them little rewards for doing the chores and stuff like that and put it on the card, they can't buy cigarettes with the card. there could be a requirement to have your date of birth in the computer before making an account on it, and that's also something that could quickly scale out. Doesn't compromise the privacy, if not safety, of adults and performers. I think this is the route Minnesota should go to call out the red state bluff, which is just the entire history of Minnesota in my entire life, even when the Republican governors were in charge to varying levels. But I digress. Yeah, the answer isn't censorship. It's not tyranny. It's not destruction. It's innovation. The answer to the problem of this and preventing this is, one, making the public aware that that is the end goal, to make gay people in America less safe, and also to censor pornography, political opponents. Oh, let me try it on the Star Tribune too. Robots. Robots command, robots text, just requiring that piece of information so that the browser can do its thing. It's hidden. I think if I hit no, not that. I'm not ready for that yet. If I hit F12 and Yakwaki isn't occupying that hotkey, that would bring up the developer tools. That's what the history downloads. Well, you got even more of a look at the ZN browser. I'm an idiot. But if I do this and I go to more tools, web developer tools, just like Hank Green mentioned, and I'll put the link to that in the description as well. Robot. I think everything it highlighted is part of its robot. Command and telling the browser what it can and can't do. And I could even set some overrides in my browser. I could force the text to say all of the words in the greatest font of all time, no toe serif. You go in Inspector, you check, you see for the robot command, the robot chunk of text, according to the IDE here. And then there you have it. You have all the information that parents need, and computers could graduate according to the desires of the parents. You have the rights of the parents respected, and the kids raised in the way parents want them to be raised. And this browser-based solution could also allow for identifiers like trolling or transphobia. There could be community feedback. There could be a button that says verify, where AI will go through search engines and see if that rating holds up to scrutiny or if other opinions are more valid, and then whitelist the page or keep the page blacklisted. You could have a part of the browser in About Preferences that handles all the nuances. You could have that linked to the kernel of the computer so that the first time ever you boot up Windows 12, you have to give your date of birth. And if parents give, like, a laptop as a gift, they have to make sure that date of birth is honest. And there could be default parental settings depending on what country the laptop is in and that country's values. Yeah, this is better than censorship and making companies scan IDs that could later be used to go after adults, which is the end goal anyway. So let's call out Republican bluff and present this better standard, better way of doing things, more respectful, more freedom-loving, and it actually solves everything we know is wrong with minors viewing pornography. That shouldn't be a thing, and I certainly agree with that. And as always, subscribe if you like, and share if you care. What? Or you can give it all to me because, you know, why the hell not?